So welcome everyone to this month's Wise BEC meeting. Today is
Thank,
third Tuesday, and so for last couple of months we are doing this meeting on third Tuesday of the month, and so that suits everyone. And so welcome once again, everyone. I will hand over the host to Craig, and he will take over. Thank you very much.
I'm the host now, thanks.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay, hello.
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 Hello, everyone.
Hi, Craig.
Yeah,
Hi.
So, listen, today I'm going to talk about the importance of having an ideal scene for your business. And then I'm going to talk about how that's going to help you.
Okay.
So, first of all, I want to look at just the definition of these words, ideal and scene. Because what does that actually mean? Well, ideal is a level of excellence or perfection, an example of something that's really considered to be a perfect example. Okay, so it's the best that something can be. Okay, and then we look at scene. A scene is a set of circumstances. So an ideal scene, if we put them together, it's a set of circumstances which are adequate and perfect for the situation that you're in. Okay, you want the entire, LRH says the entire concept of an ideal scene for any activity is really a clean statement of its purpose. So the ideal scene for any activity is a clean statement of its purpose. Clean means that it's free from irregularities, it's smooth, it's well defined. So you end up with a very clear, easily understood purpose. You translate that into a perfect ideal scene, and then you at least know where you're going for, what you're heading for, okay? So let's say, for example, you have a cafe and you're serving tea, coffee, snacks, biscuits, or whatever to the public. What is the ideal scene for this? Now you could say, lots of money made for my business. And that's very common. I hear that a lot. People tell me, oh yes, I have an ideal scene, it's to make lots of money. That is an insufficient statement of an ideal scene. Okay, that's not good enough because that is not really an ideal scene. That's not the purpose of making good tea and good coffee. You want to serve them in neat surroundings that do not repel the public. You want them to be happy. You want the staff to be happy and contented staff. You want them to be well paid for their labor and enjoy their work. You want them to be hatted, i.e. trained on what they're doing so they can carry out their functions professionally. You want a constant flow of public. That's one of the most important things of your ideal scene. You want a constant flow of public coming into the premises and buying your coffee, your tea, your business. And you want your business to be made known through social media, promotion, word of mouth. And you want to operate all of that within a healthy profit margin of sales so you make a lot of money. Okay? So there's a lot to an ideal scene. That's basically what I'm saying. It's not just make a lot of money. Okay? You also have to have your public relations fully in with the surroundings so you don't get attacked. And that would be more like an ideal scene for a cafe. And you can make out an ideal scene for anything. So what is the benefit of stating your ideal scene so thoroughly? Because there has to be a benefit, otherwise it's just an administrative exercise. But this is much more than that. It's very important that you state your ideal scene very thoroughly and very well, because the ideal scene is where you want to go. Okay? Where you're at right now is called the existing scene. Where you want to get to is called the ideal scene. Okay? The scene as it exists right now in your cafe, your company, your business, your organization, doesn't matter what it is, that is the existing scene. Maybe the staff are not well paid. Maybe it's not as clean as it should be. Maybe the promotion isn't as good as it ought to be. Maybe the marketing is failing. Maybe there are more bills than there are cash. There's a lot of maybes, okay, in the existing scene, but they're all part of the existing scene as it stands at the moment. The scene that you have to confront each day that you come to work, that's the existing scene, okay? But with the admin tech and with some of the things that we're going to go over, we're always looking to move the existing scene to the ideal scene. So if we call the existing scene scene A and the ideal scene scene B, we're trying to go from A to B. We're trying to go from existing to ideal, from where you are right now to where you want to get to. from the way things are to the purpose of what you're doing. Okay? So let's go back to the ideal scene for our cafe. We said a constant flow of public coming into the premises and buying your wares, your business made known through social media, hard copy promotion, word of mouth, and most of all, that you're operating within a healthy profit margin. So if we take a look at that, we see perhaps that there's not a constant flow of public coming in. Maybe there's not enough hard copy promotion. Maybe the word of mouth is poor. But we can see that rapidly. When we have the ideal scene named well, you can see departures from it very quickly. And that's very helpful to you because then you can isolate which areas of your company or your business you need to improve upon if you want to go from the existing to the ideal. Okay? With a well-worded ideal scene, you can see very quickly what's omitted. Omitted means that it's not there. It's the missing thing. Now, the hardest thing to spot in business very often is the thing that isn't there. It's hard to spot because it's not there. You're looking for something that's not visible, something that isn't there. But the easiest way to find it is if you've got an ideal scene to compare to, you can tell what is not there in your existing scene that will take you to the ideal scene. Lots of public should be in your cafe, but they're not. We need to find out why not. This is very important, and it's a very important part of a thing called the admin skill, which I've gone over in the past. You have an ideal scene on there, and this is very important. If you don't have an admin scale and you don't know what that is, then email me and I'll explain it. But it's a thing that you need to remedy because it's very important. The scale starts with naming your product, the things that you're producing. In the example I use, it's just tea, coffee, etc. And then you've got statistics that measure your production. And then you get to the ideal scene. And all of your ideal scene has to be given statistics also. Now, probably none of you here today run a cafe, so it's probably not the best example. But you all have a business of some sort, or you're going to start a business of some sort. So what is the ideal scene of that business? This is what I want you to concentrate on. I want you to take a look at your business, and if you already have an ideal scene, then work out if it is a complete ideal scene. If you don't have an ideal scene at all, then I want you to work out for yourself what the ideal scene could be or should be for your business. I want you to email me what the ideal scene is. You can email me at cowiseuk@wise.org. That's cowiseuk@wise.org, and tell me what the ideal scene you worked out is. Now, a very thoroughly named ideal scene is an extremely important part of your admin skill because once this is named, it is very easy to see the existing scene, what's missing, and if corrected, what would bring about the ideal scene. It's not just a piece of administration. It's a key. It's a key part, but that's a key part of your roadmap to success. It's where you're going. It's where you want to get to. The existing scene is where you're at, but the ideal scene is where you're going. And to get somewhere, you have to know where you're going. When people don't know where they're going, they are said to be in confusion. It's like someone just turning round in a circle or flapping in the water. They're not going anywhere. People who just work with no real purpose and haven't stated an ideal scene for themselves, they're not happy with their work. They're just going through the motions, going through the day. They're not getting anywhere because they've got nowhere that they know they're trying to get to. You have to be getting somewhere, and you have to know where that somewhere is. That somewhere is destination ideal scene. Anything short, now pay attention to this a little bit, anything short of an ideal scene is an illogic that can be put right. So anything that's not quite your ideal scene is something that can be fixed and something that can be corrected. And it'll move you closer from your existing scene to your ideal scene. So if we know what the ideal scene is, then we can work to correct the illogics that lie between the existing and the ideal. So let's look at another little example. Suppose you want to be a business consultant, okay? You work out your product as a business expanding as a result of consultancy and paying you well for the work done. You have stats and you state your ideal scene, which would be something like this. Lots of businesses fighting for your services, consulted businesses flourishing as a result of your work, well-paid consultancies, a staff supporting your work with ample premises, and cheerful, hatted staff that love their work. Further consultants being trained in-house by you so you can take even more time off work. fantastic word of mouth on the consulting done, business awards and recognition from the work done, and excellent PR in your area as a result. Now, that's a lot, okay? But with an ideal scene like that, you can quickly go over and see what's not happening, what is not yet ideal. And everything that is not ideal is something that you can and must do something about. And that will take you from the existing to the ideal scene. And that is the journey that I want to take you on. I want each of you to be prosperous and to use the admin tech to improve your business ventures. So please work out an excellent and complete ideal scene for your business and email it to me. I am very keen to see what you come up with, and then we can work together, all together. The Business Expansion Club, Shalendra, Subhash, myself, and we can take your existing scene and start moving it rapidly toward the ideal scene. Now, this may take some weeks or even months, but we will know at all times that we're actually going somewhere. And when you know that you're going somewhere, travel is much more enjoyable. Because if you don't know you're going somewhere, it's difficult to know if you're ever going to arrive. But if you do know where you're going, then it's much more pleasant. Okay? So that ideal scene is very important. Now, once we have the ideal scene really well stated, and we have the existing scene, which is the scene you're in right now, and we measure the gap in between, then we can use all of a thing called the data set. Okay, this is how you analyze where you're at and where you want to go, and you find out what are the reasons that you're not accomplishing your ideal scene as fast as you would like to, and then because we can use that to find things to correct, the major situations to correct in your company right now that will help speed up your expansion. Because the whole point of all of this admin tech is to speed your expansion from A, your existing scene, to B, your ideal scene, and so that you can accomplish your purpose and your goal. So you have to have a goal and a purpose for your organization. You have to have a well-stated ideal scene. You have to have it staticized. And then when you've got all that done, we can find very quickly where things aren't right. I'm very often asked if I can help a company to find what's wrong with it. And usually what's wrong with it is they have not stated well enough their ideal scene, and the departures from it are not being spotted quickly enough. And so things don't get improved rapidly. But once you get an ideal scene really well named, like supposing in your cafe example, you want to make sure that people are coming in volume, and maybe that's the biggest thing that's out, people are not coming in. Well, that's the thing to handle, not the dirty teacups or the unswept floor. They need to be handled, but not immediately. The first thing you need is public coming in and buying your coffee or your tea. So you pick the biggest thing, the most major departure from your ideal scene is the thing that you want to handle. Okay? So we have an ideal scene, the way you'd like things to be. We have an existing scene, the way things are. And we have the most major departure from the ideal scene, the biggest thing that's out between the ideal scene and where you are. And that is the main thing that we want to fix first. Doesn't mean all the other things don't get fixed, but the first thing to fix is the most major departure from the ideal scene. And you can't work out what the most major departure from the ideal scene is if you don't have a well-stated ideal scene. So it's pretty simple, okay? But it all depends on how well and how thoroughly you name the ideal scene for what it is you're doing. So take a look over it. Maybe you've all got ideal scenes. Maybe you've worked it all out already. I don't know, because that's very possible. But take a look and see if it's well named. I give you an example. In that Mr. Hubbard, he wrote a policy letter called the Ideal Org. And in that, he lists what the purposes of an organization are and how many parts of the ideal scene. There are 25 parts to that ideal scene. And any one of those parts you can put a statistic to, like number of students, the number of PCs, the number of wins, like all these things have a statistic. And so it's very easy if you look into an organization to see what's missing, what is not as it should be. And it should be like that with your business. I don't want you to have a business that you're in mystery about. And you will not be in mystery if you've got a well-stated ideal scene and you've worked out the most major departure from that ideal scene so that we can fix it rapidly with a program or a hatting action or something that makes you go from the existing to the ideal more quickly. Okay, so very simple, easy to do. Just work out your ideal scene is just exactly how you'd like it to be. What is the perfect setup for what you have right now in your company. How would you like that to be? Would you like it to be global? Would you like it to be international? Would you like it to just service New Delhi? Would you like it to be smaller, bigger? Doesn't matter. You just have an ideal scene. And once we have the ideal scene, we look at the existing scene and we see how big the gap is and what we have to do to narrow that gap. And there's plenty administrative technology to help you narrow that gap from existing to ideal. Now, I know I keep banging on about existing and ideal, but really that's my main message for the day. I just want you to understand there is an ideal scene, there is an existing scene. The gap in between is measured by illogics and non-optimum conditions, and that's what we're trying to handle. Okay? So that's my Thomas Roth for today.
Okay, thank you very much. So
Okay.
if people have questions, they can ask those. Yes.
Yep.
I already raised the hand in
Yes.
advance. So
Yes, Shailen.
yeah. So Craig, I have 3 questions I think that will help me and other members to understand.
Okay.
So one is that, is there any standard tech or reference to prepare the ideal scene which we can use and follow and do the exercise? Because we don't have a mask how to, it's very easy to say, think about ideal scene, but
Yeah.
I don't know the perceptive to visualize and go into the future and think about how it will look like. So,
Okay.
so one can be, is there any reference? Is there any tech available to work on this?
There is a reference which I said, which is it's called Data Series number 20, and it's called The Ideal Org,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives what the ideal scene would be for an organization like New Delhi Mission. It doesn't give you one for your business, but you can extrapolate. You can look at that one and go, oh, I see. It covers a lot more than just, a big.
We can model that. We can model that.
Yeah, you can base it on that.
Second question is that, do you have any, like you already have a lot of experience to giving consulting to others? By any chance, if you can share by not giving the name and anything, as some kind of a example of the references, like the way you did for the business consultant and the cafe thing, if you can give more mass to members, it would help them to give you some response. At least, I will work on that. I will share my ideal scene, but if I get more mass, I'll be able to do it better rather than doing it again and again.
You mean with me consulting? Like, how would I go about
consulting? I'm saying if you have any case study or any example, past example, if you can share with the group, which is not private, or you can make up something.
Yeah, I have this every week. I went to a company 3 days ago.
Okay.
And it was a painting and decorating company and a guttering company. They did all 3, right? And so they had big boards on the wall, and they had a really nice computer program that tells you everything in blues, greens, yellows, and my God, it was incredible. And the guy was having a trouble with something. He was having trouble keeping track of all the people who were asking him about working, like saying that they wanted jobs done. And so he had a big, long column of people who had asked for quotes. And he had a little column of sales and a little column of work being done, etc., right? Now, as I said before, like when you've got an ideal scene and an existing scene, if you very quickly understand your ideal scene, it's easy to see what's not there. Now, the trouble that this person was having was something that wasn't on his board. He had lots of columns on his board, but I took one look at his board, one look at his problem, and I said, you have an omitted column on your board. You've left something out of the ideal scene. And he was, oh, what's that? And I said, well, you have people who ask for quotes, but that doesn't mean that they want your work. That just means they're making an inquiry.
Yes.
So I said, you need an inquiries column. And he was like, oh my God. So he put an inquiries column up, and more than half the list that he had for quotes was moved over to just inquiries.
Right.
Because, right? So that left him with certain people who actually wanted quotes and people who just wanted to know how much it would be, but didn't necessarily want his company to do it.
True.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Yes.
that made it much easier for him to think with, much easier for him to use. And then I gave him a reference, and if 6 weeks go past, you just get rid of those names off the board altogether.
Okay.
So it was very much easier for him to understand. He could instantly understand who actually wanted a quote that was going to turn into a sale, that was going to turn into a job, that was going to make him some money, versus just those people who made inquiries. Like
Right.
somebody, you know? So that was an example of an omitted column because part of your ideal scene is that people inquire, then they want quotes, then they want sales, then. But he had these meshed together, and because they were together, his whole thing bottlenecked.
Absolutely. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that will help. And can you just, by any chance, if you repeat the business consultant example of ideals in the components you talked about, can you just take that example and references? It was quite fast, so I could not duplicate it fully. If you can.
For a business reference, I don't know, but I made it up in the first place.
Okay.
Let's see. I think I said, so lots of businesses fighting for your services. That would be a good thing, right?
Mhm.
Consulted businesses flourishing as a result of your work. In other words, who you do a consultants for do well. Every consultancy that you do is well paid. Okay. A staff supporting your work with ample premises, and they're cheerful and hatted and they love their work. That's optional. Further consultants being trained in-house by you so you can take on even more work. Fantastic work, fantastic word of mouth on the consulting that you're doing. And let's say business awards and recognition from the work done and excellent public relations in your area as a result. You know, you get these awards because you boomed a business or whatever. So that takes in your production, it takes in your establishment, it takes in your public relations. So all of these things are part of your ideal scene. If your ideal scene doesn't cover things like public relations, happy staff, expanded staff, as well as the product of the actual job, then you've left far too many things out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So great, great. Yeah, Vasu, yes, please. You are on mute.
Okay. Good evening, Craig.
Oh,
Always
yeah.
so the ideal scene sometimes becomes too much of an ideal. It just becomes like maybe it's a shining beacon somewhere that we're aiming to reach, but the distance between where we are and where we want to get to and the resources that are needed maybe become just too overwhelming at times. So there was a reference which I had at one point. I think somebody mentioned that there is one which says that it doesn't have to be, maybe you did, it doesn't have to be like going to the moon, but it could just be the very next step that would take you to, so if you could expand on that one, it would be
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah, that's very, very true. You don't need some kind of, some mythical goal that's far too far away to ever reach, or some kind of some ideal scene that you're just not going to accomplish. I think I said this before when I talked about the ideal scenes. Like if you're, do you have, I don't know what's a good example, but let's say you've got a cricket team and they're in the third league. I don't know if you have leagues in India or not, but let's say you've got a cricket team in the third league. Well, your ideal scene, if you're managing that team, your ideal scene might just be to move it to the second league. Whereas somebody would say, my ideal scene is to win all the trophies, win all the international competitions. Well, that's too much. Let's just go from the third league to the second league. And when we get to the second league, we can have a new ideal scene to get to the first league. And when we're in the first league, we can have a new ideal scene to actually win a trophy. But you can't win everything just because you've stated it as your ideal scene. It becomes unrealistic compared to your existing scene. So
Right.
the ideal scene is the ideal scene that you're trying to get to from where you are at. The existing scene is where you're at. The ideal scene is where you want to get to from where you are at toward your eventual goal.
So in the ideal scene, like I remember you saying this when you saw my ideal scene for drug-free world. I
Yeah.
said in the whole country, we are the only ones, and like things like that. Like I went really there with my,
Yeah.
it could be, but it was just so far away. It was just so far
Yeah.
away, right? So the thing could be like we say we do 20,000 trainings in this year, or we do like, that could be an ideal scene. If we do about 20,000 trainings this year, seminars this year, we're
Yeah.
good. right? Or we do say something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
something
I mean,
smaller and
Yeah,
something that
that's
we
that's
can
a
work
target.
at. So to
Yeah.
do 20,000, what do I need to do today? If I
Yeah.
want all my volunteers trained on the truth about drugs, what do I need to do today?
Right. So your ideal scene would be that many training facility, that much training going on.
Right.
So then you would look at your existing scene and say, well, how much training is going on? And the
So
distance between these.
yeah, correct. So it means converting your goals into the targets and quotas and looking as item, I mean, temporary ideal scene towards the end goal.
Yeah, but don't forget that the goal is your longer term big. That is your big, like clear all of India, or
Yes.
that's your goal.
That's the goal.
Yes.
Yeah, but the purpose of what you're doing, that simple, clean statement of your purpose is to do a lot of training and a lot of dissemination or whatever the thing is. Then that's becomes your ideal scene, and then you need to look at how to get to your ideal scene from where you are. Okay.
I got
So,
that.
I want to share 2 points now. Point number one is the ideal scene is like a well-rounded thing. It has promotion also, it has this and that. And
Yeah.
like it is a well-rounded thing, number one. Number two, it can be on a gradient also. Like you said, like this is the next,
Yeah.
this is the next, this is the next. And sometimes in our business, we benchmark our competitors. What is my competitor doing? So
Yeah.
that can support a person from making an ideal scene.
Yeah.
My ideal scene, because my competitor is ahead of me. So I'll just benchmark, he's promoting so much, he's doing this and that. I can get some intelligence, market intelligence to see, and then
Yeah.
I can use it to make my ideal scene. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is a gradient, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm talking to you today. I'd like to be talking to all of India today, but that's not going to happen right now.
Correct.
But that might be my ideal scene.
Yes.
It might be my ideal scene to be in India speaking to you rather than on a Zoom.
Correct. Yes.
But if I name that, if I have that as part of my ideal scene, I will work out how to make that happen. Do you see what I'm saying? If I don't ever name it, then I won't even know that it's omitted.
Yes.
True.
Yeah, and then use those omitteds, and eventually that gives you the why of situations. You can fix them. Anyway, just
Okay.
concentrate on the ideal scene for now, okay? And we'll
Yeah,
get to the rest
thank
later.
you. Thank you.
Where
Yeah.
where on the mark in the mark book do we look? I mean, so actually, whatever you tell us, we should go back and look at the Mac book and see where is it that we need to kind of work at, because
Yeah. I don't think this particular thing that I'm saying is in the MacBook.
it's not.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But if you have your ideal scene well worked out, then there are things in the MacBook that will help you get from your existing scene to your ideal. Okay. So I will take a look as well, and you can email me or I'll email you, and we can figure that out.
Yeah, and once again, one of the requests that I have for doing one of those webinars could be just why should we look at our MacBook, and what can we get out, and how do we maybe I was suggesting to Shailendra and Subhash we could do weekly ones where we take the entire group through the MacBook, one chapter, one page at a time. So
Yes.
literally, handhold each other, because
Yeah.
much as we want to, somehow or the other, I don't know about the others, but there's always something that I trip upon. I am not able to implement completely.
Okay.
So,
Well, one of the things about the MacBook itself is that unless you have a fairly sizable or a decent sized company, you should really be doing just the one program in there called the Professional.
yeah, on page 170.
Yes.
72, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think in fact we can go with the program and we just go and give some reality to each member every week, taking one piece of the program, and we go you just disseminate the understanding part, and then
Yeah.
every week we come and we share in the next meeting our wins and success. I think that will be a
In implementing.
fantastic idea to work together.
Okay. If you need me for any of that, let me know.
Absolutely, because we've got a good tool. We've got some really good tools, but we don't know how to use them. We're not, we don't know how to use them.
Yeah.
So it would be good
Okay, we can definitely do that.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you.
I'm up for doing anything.
Yeah, I know. You are the kind of the way you are supporting us. It's just fantastic support and the communication we are getting from your side. At least we are having every Tuesday, every third Tuesday, we are having this meeting.
Good.
So I'm always eager and excited and parked my calendar to come this time and ensure that nothing comes in between.
Good. Okay, great. All right.
Okay,
gonna
so
go.
thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you for joining today.
Bye.
And we will
Thank you,
share
thank you,
the
thank you.
video, and I'll also share Craig's email ID on the group.